Greetings all, Paladin here. Wanted to get this out sooner, probably about a week or week and a half ago while it was fresh, about the body cams and the witness statements. And first of all, I want a big shout out to WEG and WEG OG and Las Vegas Shooting. I believe you guys probably spent a lot of time putting together the body cam footage, syncing it up with timestamps and radio stuff, and I just want to say well done, you guys. This will be important for purposes of putting together a master timeline going forward. So it's invaluable work you're doing, and I for one appreciate it, and I think everyone else who's looking at this appreciates it also. Okay, body cam footage after LVMPD tried everything in the book to prevent this from being released, went to the Nevada State Supreme Court, and they basically said you got to do it, so they did it. We all know that story. Anyway, we got the biggest mass shooting in the history of the United States, and it takes over an hour to get in position. I mean, this whole thing reeks of no sense of urgency. Looks like it starts around 10:08, 10:09, where I guess when Bitsko and Newton turn on their body cams. I know you guys somebody synced that together where you could get a split screen where you could see them both responding. They get to Mandalay Bay, they put their gear on, decide not to take a dog, because we have two officers that are K9, and I think Newton may have been K9 also. So they make their way. Eventually, after about 40 minutes, they make their way up to 32, but first they stop along the way. One of the places they stop is 135, 31 135. It looks like one of the security people at Mandalay Bay uses as key card to get him in. They look around. Newton relieves himself, grabs a bottle of water. Absolutely no sense of urgency whatsoever. They go up the stairwell to 32. They stay in the stairwell, or they stay in the foyer between the stairwell and the hallway outside 135 and 134 for what, 20 minutes, 25 minutes before they finally breach. And then when they breach, they stand back and I guess wait or listen, because we really can't see around the corner because Bitsko's camera points more to his jaw and his face than it does forward. But anyway, no tear gas, no flashbang, no nothing. They just sit around and wait, and then Hancock goes in and they go in. So it seems to me they already knew he was down. They already knew the threat was over based on the fact that they had no sense of urgency whatsoever. So they go in to 135. They look around. It takes them another 5 or 6 minutes to breach 134, and then the comedy starts. I'm sure everybody, I know everybody, or a lot of people some people have made videos about it. I think there was something going on in there. I'm convinced that there was another person in there, maybe even more than one person. I think they were in the bathroom. I think that's apparent by the video, and I want to go to that now. Here's a screen capture, screenshot. I paused it here. This is Bitsko. This is 134. We get about, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds of viewing of what was going on. The door goes down, the door goes up, the door goes back down again. We can hear some muffled conversation, and it sounds like it's give us a minute. I think somebody was in that bathroom. I think there may have been more than one person in that bathroom. And then once this little comedy routine is over, then it's everybody out. They go out, congregate in the hallway, and then somebody comes in and says, or somebody comes out and says, okay, everybody start checking the rooms, go down the hallway. I thought that was already done, but obviously it wasn't. So the way they treated this whole thing, it just did not seem to be real. They did not seem to have any sense of urgency. They didn't seem that there was imminent danger or a threat that they were dealing with. It was just, more or less looked to me like they were waiting for somebody to give them the okay to do the breach, after they waited in that foyer for 15, 20, 25 minutes. Okay, so the recap. We got no time stamps. Newton's body cam was turned off before the breach. Bitsko's body cam was aimed at his face more so than it was forward. And we find out, of course, as I said earlier, or maybe I didn't say earlier, but we find out the day before, the day of the release of the body cam footage, that the most important officer of all, the one who breached 135 and 134, the one who was the first one in both places, was Levi Hancock, the SWAT officer that forgot to turn his body cam on. Hello? Look. SWAT is connected to real time to the command post. His camera is connected real time to the command post. So if he was getting ready to breach that room and the camera wasn't on, I'm sure there's somebody in the command post that said, Levi, turn on your cam so we can see what's going on. But no, we don't get that one. And of course, it's the most important, because not only would we see what was going on in 135 when he breached, which I don't think was anything more than what we've seen in the pictures and when they went in, but more importantly, I think we would see what was going on in 134, which is what they're trying to hide. Okay, so no sense of urgency, and this is, the no sense of urgency is what left plenty of time to get a real SWAT team up there. I mean, this is special weapons and tactics. This is what they train for. You got the biggest mass shooting in the history of the U.S., and you take 2 canine officers and 2 other officers with 1 SWAT officer. I mean, based on the fact that the shooting had stopped almost, over an hour and 5 minutes prior, you had plenty of time to get a full SWAT team up there. I can see if they were up there within 5 or 10 minutes and you just, the shooting was still going on, or you thought there was a shooting threat, so you had to breach as soon as possible to stop the shooting, so you go with whoever's there and you go in. But that wasn't the case. This was an hour later, and they still took their time about going in. So, I think it speaks for itself. So I think one of the most significant things that we got out of this, because I don't think we really got a whole lot other than we saw them take their time to get up there, which is something that I think we already knew. If anybody read the FIT report, you will see big gaps of time from line items where they go through the time frame, where they, they're here, they're there, and there's time. Get big gaps in the time frames on the FIT report. So, and that's what we saw in the body cams. Okay, the most significant part, in my opinion, was the breach of 134. They go in, the door goes down, the door goes up, the door goes back down again, it comes back up, and then you can see what appears to be Hancock in there, and it looks like he is focusing his attention on the bathroom door, or on the bathroom, which would be to your right. And I believe there was at least 1 person there, maybe 2. And you can hear some muffled conversation where it sounds like whoever is in the bathroom or whoever they're dealing with says, "Give us a minute," which is very interesting. So anyway, that's what we got. I want to get into the 134. I will get into that a little bit later after we go through some of the witness statements. Okay, now the witness statements, very interesting. We have 10 PDF files. The amount of documents in each one of them ranges from 100 to around 100, approximately 100 to approximately 150. So we've got over 1,000 pages of witness statements to go through. Most of them, the majority of them, are people who were at the concert. Some of them were conducted at various locations that night or early in the morning. Some of them were conducted at the Thomas and Mack Center, where they funneled some people. Some of them were conducted in the hospitals for the people who were shot. So anyway, various places, various people. Just overall, the analysis sort of is kind of like everything else. I mean, some of these aren't signed, some of them aren't dated, some of them aren't witnessed, some of the redactions are some of the locations are redacted. I don't understand that. And then we have a couple of interesting times and dates that I caught, and I kind of skimmed through these. Like I say, I kind of focused on a lot of time on some of the more relevant interviews, but there were a couple of interesting times and dates where they signed it, the witness signed it and dated it, and then it was witnessed by the officer taking the statement. One, and I don't have it written down where it was, but one I noticed was dated October 1st at 10 o'clock. Another one was dated October 1st at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which obviously was before all of this happened. So I don't know if that was obviously a mistake. But, if you're going to witness it and sign a test that you witnessed it, because the witnesses had to sign and also print their name. If you're going to do that, then you need to check what these people put down as the time and the date. And obviously they didn't, so I guess that's par for the course for the Keystone Cops. All right, now interestingly enough, I think we're all familiar with the event number. It's listed on the FIT report, and that would be 171001-3519. However, if you look at these witness statements, we've got several, 20 to be exact, I believe I counted 20, that have another event number, which is 171001-3751, which I find very interesting. On all of those, without exception, they say the crime was an active shooter, and they give the time as 2300, 11 o'clock. Now there also are other event numbers, but they're all singles. There's, I don't know, maybe 12 to 15 other event numbers. They seem to be sort of related to the date in which they did the interview, but then there are other interviews where they did them in later October and November where they don't give it another special number, an event number. So maybe that should go on the list, on the FOIA request list. Okay, most of these were done on LVMPD or Henderson PD forms, witness statement forms, voluntary witness statement forms, and then some of these are typed up interviews that were taped and then transcribed into interview format, and those were primarily LVMPD and FBI. Now, one thing to look at as you're going through these, just the interesting part, in addition to what's said by the interviewee, and this is on the taped interviews where they transcribe it, it's interesting to see who all's there. I noticed LVMPD, FBI, DEA, which was interesting, attorneys, and union representatives. Okay, now some of this information was redacted out, and it's usually in the beginning of the statements where they have this information. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I want to start going through some of these statements. The first one would be PDF number 5. This would be on page 85. Okay, and this is obviously a cab driver. There's not much detail here. However, he let's read it because it's pretty relevant, or it's pretty interesting. Picked up a young white couple at Terminal 1, destination MGM. On the way to MGM, riders started conversation about how Vegas wasn't ready for a terrorist attack, like in Paris and Belgium. I asked where they were from. They said all over. They were in the military. When they got out of my car, I said, "Thanks for protecting our country." And the male looked at me kind of funny. Now this is an interesting interview here. So it appears to be a cab driver, but he doesn't say what day this was or any other details other than what you have here. Although there could be another interview that he gave with the FBI or someone else where they went into more detail. Okay. All right, the next one, now I want to go into the Mary Lou sighting, and this would be on PDF 10, and this starts on page 1, and this is obviously a worker who works for Mandalay Bay. She describes herself as a busser. Now we have Detective Breck Hudson of the Force, the FIT team, and then we also have, I believe we also have a FBI agent. Yeah, Special Agent McCamey is there. All right, so anyway, and you guys can read this. I'm not going to go through everything, but basically what she's saying is that around on Friday, the 29th, around 12 o'clock, she served one table, table 202. There was a guy that she saw a picture on the TV, and also a lady. There was a couple. We have a white guy, white hair, little beard, and then we have a short lady. Okay, and you can read this. I'm not going to go through all of it. But what's interesting is she's saying it was basically 12:05 when they must have come in, and they're at table 202. Okay, and she describes him. Now she pays more attention to the female than she does the male, only because my husband is Filipino, and she thinks that the lady, obviously she recognizes the lady as being Asian, and so she thinks she's maybe Filipino. So she goes through all this. She talks about, okay, I'm the busser, I'm not the server, so I just served the drink. They wanted to know how he paid the bill. She didn't know that. Okay, so she goes through all that. She goes through how she realizes that when she is brought her attention is brought to the fact that there's a shooting, and they show the pictures on TV, and I think her daughter talks about it. It's all in here. You guys can read it. There's no reason for us to go through this. But anyway, the point being is that here is a witness who saw Mary Lou and Paddock in the Noodle Shop restaurant, and that's in here. Let me find that. Okay, here. So the lady that was in the Noodle Shop, okay? Now, the Noodle Shop is at Mandalay Bay, all right? Mandalay Bay Noodle Shop, okay? Friday and Saturday, they open at 11 o'clock, which is what this witness said. Said it opens at 11. I just want to get up there and show you. Okay, and they said it was at 10 a.m. No, we open at 11. Okay, so this confirms that information. Now, what's interesting is the FIT report for the 29th shows from approximately 12:28 to 13:14, Paddock ate at Mizuha Sushi Sake and then returned to 32-135. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case, does it? Okay. All right. Now I want to go to the next one, and we're gonna call this Paddock sightings. Now this one, and I'm not going to read this because you guys can do it. This is found on PDF 9. This is on page 1. This is a British citizen who thinks he saw or talked to Paddock the night before the shooting at the Luxor. Okay, and he talks about this, and you guys can read this. But basically, it doesn't appear to be Paddock, although he thinks it is. And this person who he thinks was Paddock indicated that he'd been in the military, had a son in prison. He said had a second wife. He'd been married twice. His second wife died from vodka. He cited scripture and God, about how God takes care of things. I mean, it's kind of an interesting interview. I'm not sure this is Paddock. And then this guy says that he left around 9:30 or 10:30 and went to see a girly show. Because the witness thought that was strange because he was talking about God, and then he went to see a girly show. That started, I think, at 10:30. So anyway, now let's go do the FIT report the night before, which is Saturday. Okay, he's saying around 9:30 to 10:30. Okay, the night before. Okay, so at 7 o'clock, or basically 8 o'clock, Paddock drove from Mandalay Bay to Mesquite, Nevada, and arrived approximately 20:57 hours. Okay, so while this guy says he saw Paddock at the Luxor, the FIT report says Paddock was driving to Mesquite. Okay, all right. Now the next one. which is really kind of interesting. Okay, this is a Uber driver, and no date, no time, but he says, I got a request to pick up Paddock at Terminal 1. Pickup area for Uber, not sure what day or time. Pick up a man and a woman with a big blue suitcase, old looking and heavy, and he commented on the Mandalay Bay area for a terrorist attack and dropped at the Mandalay Bay. Maybe check Uber records, okay? SVPC, I don't know what that is. This was given to him October 4th at 9:20 a.m. in the morning. You have the witness of the officer, the signature, and then they print it, and then they redact who the witness is. Okay, so this is another what I call a Paddock sighting. Okay. All right, now we go to PDF 8. This one's kind of interesting also. Okay. And this is white female, 5'8", 200, gray hair, brown eyes, housewife. Okay. All right. And this is done on October 5th at 10:17 a.m. I'm just showing you this at the bottom just so you see what I was talking about earlier. All right, so what we got, we're going to read this. Last Thursday, I took my son after school to have dinner. I'm not sure if it was Denny's or IHOP. Now, this is Thursday, okay? This would be the 28th. But it was near Flamingo, Trop, and Eastern Avenue. Two men sat at the booth in front of us. I thought one man looked like the actor Clancy Brown. This morning I realized it was Stephen Paddock. His companion was slight build, white with Mediterranean features. I was looking at him. They were talking about Waco and Ruby Ridge. I thought they were talking about a woman. However, I've since Googled Ruby Ridge. The men were angry about it, and IATF and the federal government in general, they kept mentioning the 25th anniversary of Ruby Ridge. I didn't hear them planning anything, but they were speaking of things that struck me odd. That's why I remember things about courtroom flags having golden fringe made them not real flags. At the time, I just thought strange guys, and I wanted to leave. I paid in cash. Sorry, I don't remember exactly where it was. I was at the restaurant between the hours of 4 and 6 on 9/28. Okay, 4 and 6 on 9/28. Let's go to the fit report. 9/28. Between 4 and 6 would basically be 1600 to 1800. Okay, so according to the fit report, Paddock is in Mesquite. Okay. At approximately 15:23 hours, he purchased a .308 bolt-action rifle from a gun store in Mesquite. From approximately 17:23 to 18:03, which would be 6 o'clock. From 5:23 to 6 o'clock, Paddock was seen driving in the area of the city of Mesquite. Landfill gun range located at 3200 Mesquite Heights Road in a rural area of Mesquite, Nevada. Okay, so this lady says that she saw him in either a Denny's or an IHOP, and he was talking radical with another gentleman who appeared to be with Mediterranean features, white, slight build, white. Okay, and the fit report says Paddock was in Mesquite at the time. Let's go back and look at that. Okay, 28th, and that's what she says. 9/28. Okay, between 4 and 6, which would be 1600 to 1800. The fit report says between 1600 and 1800 that Paddock's in Mesquite. All right? Okay. Now the next one is probably the most interesting of all. Let's go to that. Is back on 10. Okay, so now we have to go to page 54. All right. Okay, so this is conducted by Detective Penny of the FIT team, and also we have Special Agent Dan Leon of the FBI. And this is conducted at the Clark County Detention Center. This is a prisoner. Okay. Now, what the interesting is, I'll give you a synopsis. The interesting part of this is that the prisoner indicates that he was selling schematics for auto sears on Backpage, and Paddock responded to his ad. They decided to meet, and they met at I believe it was a Cabela's in Vegas. Okay, all right. Now, auto sears. Just to let you know what those are, this is an auto sear. Okay, and these are devices that converts a semi-automatic to a fully automatic. Okay, all right. So this is what it is. So this guy has put a schematic for educational purposes, I believe, is what he says. He puts that out on Backpage in an ad. Paddock answers the ad. They decide to meet. Okay, Backpage, he's going to sell these it's for an AR-15, selling the schematics for an auto sear for $40. Okay, so where they meet, oh, I'm sorry, not Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, sorry. Bass Pro Shop, sorry. Blue Diamond Road next to the Silverton, okay? All right, so now I want to go to page 64. I'm going to jump around a little bit. You guys can go read this. It's on PDF 10. Page 54 is when it starts. Okay, and I want to get a time frame here, so I'm going to go to page 64. Okay, so PH is the BP is Penny, Detective Penny with LVMPD, the FIT team. Okay, PH is the witness. It was about 3 weeks to a month before he did the shooting. Okay, so that's the time frame, about a month before the shooting. All right. Now I want to go back up to 56 because this is important. All right. So he's going through and talking about the conversation with Paddock, and Paddock wanted him to basically build one of these auto sears, and Paddock was going to give him $500 a piece. Okay, this guy got the impression, you can read it, I'm not going to go through it all, but you can read it. The guy got the impression that Paddock wanted more than one. All right, well, this guy didn't want to do it. I'm too old. I don't want to be spending the rest of my life in prison. I would sell the schematics if you're interested. He wasn't interested in that. He kept carrying on about anti-government stuff, FEMA camps, Katrina. He asked me if I remembered Katrina, and he said, well, you know, that was just a dry run for law enforcement and military to start kicking down doors and confiscating guns. Somebody has to wake up the American public and get them to arm themselves. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made. This is when this guy got a little, he got just a little bit nervous and decided to end the meeting, okay? Because he didn't want to get involved with this, and obviously the person that he was meeting with, which he thought was Paddock, was trying to get him to do something he didn't want to do, which was actually build one of these auto sears, and Paddock was willing to give him $500, or at least the person that represented himself to be Paddock. Okay, all right, now let's go to the description of this person. Okay, can you describe Mr. Paddock? Pardon, can you describe him? Okay. Heavy set and blonde. It was dark. He had puffy eyes. He asked him if he was a Nevada resident, and yeah, he pulled out his ID. That's when I saw the name Paddock. It was stuck in my mind. Okay, so Paddock. He says Paddock. All right. Now let's go to. This is 58. Now I want to go to page 77, and you can read this, guys. I'm not going to go through all of it. Because they kind of go back over some things as far as what he said, try to get more details out of him. All right. Okay, so Detective Penny asking him again. Now you said you described him. He was a heavier set. He had blonde hair, puffy eyes. Do you remember about how old he was? I'd take a guess at 50, somewhere around there. Didn't seem to have any gray hair. I'd say probably around 45 or 50. Okay, and this is a week. Or I'm sorry, 3 weeks to a month before the shooting, okay? And I want to go through what the guy was in for. That was on page 76. 5-year-old possession charge. Don't know if that's gun possession, drug possession. I don't know. But anyway, so this guy was in the Clark County Detention Center, which is another word for the jail, county jail. Okay, so that takes care of that. All right, that's all of our Paddock sightings. 4 of them, I believe we had. All right, kind of interesting though, what they're saying about Paddock. All right, the icing on the cake. Page starts on page 81. This is still on PDF 10. He's employed by Mandalay Bay. His occupation is a security officer. He works from 1500 to 2300. Okay, so you have Detective Penny conducting this. Days off are Thursday and Friday. He works from 3 o'clock till 11 o'clock. Okay, this interview is taking place on October 4th, 3 days after the shooting. Current time is 12:55 at Mandalay Bay. Okay, on 32nd floor in room 32-124. Isn't that interesting? Just right down the hall from 135. Also present for the interview is union rep. Okay, so he's got a union rep. Okay, JC, Jesus Campos. All right, all right. So I want to go through this. Page 82. So he's going to tell me what. Okay, so Detective Penny asking, can you tell me what you were doing and what brought you into this incident we're investigating? Okay, Campos says, approximately 2200 hours. I received a call from dispatch, told me to go check the doors. We have a hot SOS system which indicates which door is propped open for a long time. Okay. On my patrol, I was on the last room, which was 30. I was on my way to 32-1-30-29. Okay, so he must have been doing some other rooms. He got a call at approximately 2200 hours. I received a call from dispatch that told me to go check the doors. All right, room 32-129. So he got this at 10 o'clock. Okay, so he must have been on, I don't know whether this means he was on the 30th floor or whatever, but anyway, he went up to the 32nd floor. It was locked, so he had to go back down. He dropped down to 31, came up through the elevators. Okay, now you can read all this. I'm not going to go through all of it. He talks about the shots. He talks about the radioing in. He talks about the bracket. As I got in front of 32-129, coincidentally, what he was going up there to check, that's when he heard the gunfire. As he got hit, he was pinned down in front of 32-121 and 32-123. Okay, now I want to go to the next page because this is really what we're talking about. Okay. So you get a hot SOS alarm, and that alarm is tripped when a guest room door is left open for an extended amount of time, yes. And that alarm was coming from 32-129, yes. 32-129, keep that in mind. It's very, very, very important. All right, now, and before that, it talks about, I'm just going to go back, so around 2200, dispatch contacts you via radio, yes, and says they have a hot SOS, yes, like hot sauce, hot sauce, yes, no, hot SOS, okay, so we get that all, that's an acronym, okay, and that alarm was coming from 32-129. Let's go over that again. From 2200, dispatch contacts you via radio and gives him a hot SOS alarm for 32-129. Okay? All right. So they go back over it, how he comes up, get a little bit more detail. Here's a loud drill. So you hear drilling coming from 32-135. And right around the time he was at 32-129 is when the shots were dispersed down the hallway. Okay. All right. Okay, so we got continuous fire. And they go through some of the details. Okay. All right, so this is page 90. And when you got to the center core, you meet up with your guys, and that's when 4 of our guys are coming to the center core, correct? And did you speak with those officers slightly? I told them at the time I believed that he was shooting through the peephole. Okay. However, later, at a later time, I found out that what he actually had a setup of the table and the camera. Now, Campos brings this up. Campos is the one that brings this up. This is on October 4th. Okay, and you saw that from the news. I was told by multiple people. Okay, but at that time you didn't notice that? Yes, I didn't notice that. Okay. Do you remember the cart being in the hallway? Nope, I don't remember recalling any carts in the hallway. All right, let's go over that again. However, later, at a later time, I found out what he actually had, a setup of the table and the camera. And you saw that from the news. I was told by multiple people. But at the time, you didn't notice that. Yes, I didn't notice that. Do you remember the cart being in the hallway? No, I don't remember recalling any carts in the hallway. Okay, so then they go through where he ends up. He goes down to the second floor in the second wing and the level of the basement, and that's where he gets some first aid, and that's when the EMT finally comes and deals with him. Okay? Now, this time is going to be 13:10 hours. So this is a 15-minute interview with Campos. Started at 12:55. Go back up here. Catch that. Okay, so it started at 12:55 and it was over at 13:10. So that's 15 minutes. All right. Campos tells us that he didn't see a cart in the hallway. Now he's a security officer. What are they supposed to do? Observe and report. So he walks down the long hallway towards 135. The cart and the camera should be right in front of him, but he doesn't see it. He goes all the way down to the end of the hall, goes into the door to the left, checks the bracket on the inner door for the fire door, makes a phone call in the foyer to notify dispatch to send an engineer up there to fix it. He comes back out the door into the hallway. The cart is right in front of him. It should be. He should see it. There's no way he can miss that cart. There's no way he can miss that camera. There's no way he can miss any of that. Yet he says he didn't see it. I think we just found out why they didn't want him to interview with any other media, because he didn't see the cart. The cart wasn't there at 10 o'clock, 10:05, whenever it was he was through there. The cart was not there. So you can theorize all you want to. You can say he was lying, but you got to remember that it would be easier for him to lie and say, oh yeah, I saw the cart there, because that's the narrative, that's the line. But Campos is saying, no, I didn't see a cart there. That's why they're keeping him under wraps. That's why he did the setup softball interview with Ellen, because I went back and watched that, and he mentions nothing about the cart in her little diagram, floor plan diagram. There's no cart in there on that diagram. So let's embrace the fact that at the time that Campos was up there, there was no cart in the hallway. Okay? And I think what this is doing is it has to bring our focus on 134. Because we have to go back and review that 134 was locked. It was locked from the 134 side. So do you think Paddock did that? What's he going to do? Lock it from 134, then he's going to go out the door of 134 and back into 135? That's ridiculous. Why didn't he just lock the adjoining door between the two rooms from the 135 side and stay inside? Well, that's because there was another person or persons there, okay? I mean, this has always been the case. So now you're faced with the fact that if that's the case and the person in 134 or persons locked that adjoining door, well, one of two things happened. They either got out of that room before the breach or they didn't, and it appears as if they didn't get out of that room. Okay? All right, I think that's enough for today. 134, guys, we need to focus on 134. A lot of things were going down, and I think they're trying to basically keep our attention on 135 with Paddock and the broken windows and all the guns and all this other stuff. And 134 is where our attention should be focused on, because at 134 we have one shell casing found, I think they said, and that's where the shots were supposedly fired at the fuel tanks, and that's what got the feds involved. And the cart is outside 134. I mean, this is ridiculous. Okay, it's always been ridiculous in my mind, because here's the thing: if you've got a peephole camera at 135, okay, and you're shooting down the hall, why do you need another one in 134 to shoot down the hall? The same area. Why do you need it? Why do you need to do it twice? Unless there were two different people, right? Because basically, if you wanted to monitor it in two rooms, you could have run another wire from the peephole in the 135 room, and you could have run another wire into a laptop in 134, and you could have monitored it. Why put a cart out in the middle of the hallway for everybody to see? You're giving yourself away. And the camera's on the cart, and everybody could see the camera on the cart and the wires. I mean, why would you give yourself away? It's ridiculous. It's just totally ridiculous. So the cart and the camera is a setup. Okay, this is to portray something for the public. Okay, it was a setup. All right, guys, that's all I got today. Hope you enjoyed this. I would love to hear your comments. Anybody out there who has information, witnesses, they want to talk, they want to give some information. I'll put my email in the description box. Paladin out.